Are you filming me?
Yes, I am.
Hello. It's 7:30. Please excuse all this. I've been up all night.
May 19th, 2014. A TV cop who played the good guy for 6 seasons pulls a real trigger, 3 times, on his own wife, while their 2 young sons hide in the next room. And before the second shot, he says words so chilling that his 10-year-old son will never forget them. "You like running? Then run to heaven. My son-in-law texted me and said come get the kids because he shot April, our daughter." Michael Jace, you know his face from The Shield, Forrest Gump, Planet of the Apes, the actor who played heroes and protectors on screen. Off-screen, he was a jealous, controlling husband who sent 95 text messages in one day to his wife, who accused her of infidelity with 0 evidence, who couldn't handle that she wanted out. April Jace was a champion sprinter, a teacher, a mother of 3, and a woman trying to escape. She almost made it. Disclaimer: this story contains descriptions of domestic violence and murder witnessed by children. We tell April's story to honor her memory and to show how even the nicest guy on TV can be a monster at home. Before we talk about the actor who killed her, you need to know who April Jace really was. Because Michael Jace tried to reduce her to unfaithful wife in his twisted mind. But April Denise Jace was so much more than that. Born April Denise Long on May 6, 1974. April grew up in Southern California with a fire in her legs and determination in her heart. She attended Hawthorne High School, then California State University Fullerton, where she earned a degree in early childhood and adolescent development. But April's true passion was running, not casual jogging, not weekend fun runs. April was a champion, an elite athlete who competed at world-class levels well into her 30s. By age 40, April ran with the Elite Health Squad and later the Trojan Masters Club. In 2013, she was crowned the Southern California USA Track and Field W35 champion in the 100 meters. W35 is a competitive category for female athletes over 35, and April dominated. She didn't just win locally. April climbed as high as 5th in the entire United States in her category. In 2011, she became a World Championship finalist individually in the 100 meters, and she earned a gold medal on the USA 4x 100 meters relay team. Read that again. April Jace was a world-class athlete, a gold medalist, a woman who represented the United States on the international stage. Running wasn't just exercise for April, it was her identity, her passion, her freedom. When she ran, she was powerful, independent, unstoppable, and Michael Jace hated that. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Beyond her athletic achievements, April was also a dedicated educator. She worked as a school teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District, shaping young minds, encouraging students, making a difference in her community. Later, she became a financial aid counselor at Biola University, a private Christian institution in La Mirada, California, about 30 minutes west of Los Angeles. She helped students navigate the complicated world of college funding, ensuring young people could pursue their dreams. April was also a mother, something she took more seriously than anything else. She had 3 sons, Savoy Brown from a previous relationship, and 2 young boys with Michael Nehemiah, 8 years old, and Caleb, 5 years old, at the time of her death. Her oldest son, Savoy, would later describe his mother as someone who was really happy all the time, as much as she could be. No matter what, even if something sad was going on, she'd do her best to be happy. That was April, perpetually positive, endlessly optimistic, radiating joy even when life got hard. Friends described her as someone with a positive glow, someone who made every room brighter just by being in it. And then she met Michael Jace. Michael Andrew Jace was born on July 13, 1962, in Paterson, New Jersey. By the time he met April, he was a working actor with a respectable career built on playing ironically good guys. His most famous role was Detective Julian Lowe on the FX series The Shield, which ran from 2002 to 2008. Julian was a deeply religious, moral police officer trying to navigate a corrupt world. The character was complex, sympathetic, the kind of role that makes audiences root for you. Michael also appeared in major films: Forrest Gump, Planet of the Apes, Boogie Nights. In 1999, he even played Michael Jordan in a TV movie about the NBA legend titled Michael Jordan, An American Hero. On screen, Michael Jace was the reliable character actor you recognized from that one episode of CSI, or that supporting role in a blockbuster. The kind of actor who makes a comfortable living without ever becoming a household name. But off-screen, Michael Jace had a history that should have been a parade of red flags. He'd been married before, and that marriage had ended badly. Very badly. A close friend of his first wife later provided a sworn statement saying she had witnessed Michael physically beat his ex-wife in the late 1990 seconds. And in 2006, Michael sent his ex-wife an email that read, "Do you want to have a fucking war with me? I will fucking kill you." Read that again. 6 years before he murdered April, Michael Jace had already threatened to kill a woman he claimed to love. But April may not have known this history. Or perhaps she did, and believed he'd changed. Or maybe, as is so often the case with abusers, Michael was an actor both on-screen and off, able to hide his violent nature behind charm and promises until it was too late. Michael and April married around 2004, and for a while, things seemed good. They attended church regularly. They raised their 2 sons in a Christian household. They presented themselves as a stable, loving family. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. By 2014, Michael Jace's acting career had stalled. Asterisk, the Shield times had ended in 2008, and the steady work had dried up. He was out of work for years, scrambling for auditions, facing rejection after rejection. The financial pressure was crushing. Michael was drowning in debt. The bills piled up, the stress mounted, and rather than taking responsibility for his failing career, Michael found someone else to blame. April. Specifically, April's running. Remember, April was a world-class athlete still competing at 40 years old. She trained with co-ed teams. She traveled for competitions. She was passionate, dedicated, successful in a way Michael no longer was. And Michael hated it. He became obsessed with the idea that April's running was taking time away from him, that she was spending too much time with other men on her teams, that her dedication to her sport meant she wasn't dedicated enough to their marriage. The jealousy consumed him. He accused April of having affairs that never existed. No evidence, no proof, just paranoid delusions fed by his own insecurity and rage. April tried to reassure him, tried to include him, tried to balance her passion with her family responsibilities, but it was never enough. Nothing she did could satisfy Michael's need for control. By early 2014, April had made a decision. She wanted a divorce. She'd tried everything to make the marriage work. She'd compromised. She'd prayed. She'd attended counseling. But Michael's jealousy, his controlling behavior, his financial stress, his constant accusations, it was suffocating her. She deserved better. Her sons deserved better. She was going to leave. And when Michael realized April was serious about leaving, his obsession turned deadly. In the months leading up to May 2014, Michael's behavior escalated. He questioned April constantly. He monitored her phone. He sent endless text messages demanding answers, reassurance, control. On May 19, 2014, the day he would murder her, Michael sent April 95 text messages. 95, in a single day. Each one a demand, an accusation, a desperate attempt to maintain control over a woman who was slipping away. April responded to many of them, trying to keep the peace, trying to de-escalate, trying to survive until she could safely leave. One text from April to Michael that morning reveals her fear. "I don't want you throwing things and breaking things and screaming lies to the boys. I am afraid to come home. I am glad you are praying." Read that again. "I am afraid to come home." April Jace knew she was in danger. She knew her husband was unstable. She knew the situation was escalating. But she had to come home eventually. Her sons were there. Her life was there. She couldn't just disappear. And Michael was waiting. May 19th, 2014, started like many difficult days in the Jace household, with tension, fear, and desperate attempts to keep things together for the sake of the children. The night before, April's teenage son, Savoy, and her adult nephew, Christopher, had visited the family home. They'd gone to a movie with April, then stayed overnight. Early on the morning of the 19th, Christopher was startled awake by shouting. Michael was yelling at April, his voice filled with rage. "You don't have a godly reason for a divorce." According to witnesses, there was a huge commotion involving Michael and the children. The boys were defending their mother. Someone had grabbed a baseball bat. The situation was volatile, dangerous. Michael kept repeating, over and over, I would never put my hands on your mom. I would never put my hands on your mom. That phrase repeated like a mantra, like he was trying to convince himself, like he knew that's exactly what he was about to do. Around 7:45 a.m., April left the house with Christopher to drive 5-year-old Caleb and 8-year-old Nehemiah to school. She needed to get the boys out of that toxic environment, even if just for a few hours. After dropping them off, April texted Michael's friend Brown, asking him to check on Michael. She was worried. She knew Michael was spiraling. She was trying to prevent disaster even while fearing for her own safety. Brown texted Michael, "When trouble comes, be full of joy." Michael's response was chilling. "Maybe too late. April wants out, and I'm tired of pleading." Later that day, around 6 p.m., Brown texted again, inviting Michael over to talk. Michael replied, "I appreciate it, but shit is going to hell fast and I wouldn't be good company." Meanwhile, the text messages between April and Michael continued throughout the day. 164 text messages total, April trying to de-escalate. Michael, growing more desperate, more angry, more dangerous. At 10:45 a.m., April texted, "I don't want you throwing things and breaking things and screaming lies to the boys. I am afraid to come home. I am glad you are praying." At 6:45 p.m., April sent what would become a heartbreaking message. "I'm sorry that I'm not the perfect Christian woman you thought you married." She was apologizing. For what? For wanting a divorce? For having a passion outside her marriage? For being human? April had picked up the boys from school and brought them to baseball practice. While sitting in the bleachers, Michael continued texting her. 95 messages, each one tightening the noose. After practice, around 8 p.m., April drove home with Nehemiah and Caleb. They'd barely been in the house for 10 or 15 minutes when everything ended. Michael had been drinking. He had April's father's gun, a revolver, fully loaded. And when April walked through that door, Michael saw his opportunity slipping away. His wife, his control, his life. What happened next was witnessed by 2 terrified little boys hiding in another room. Michael confronted April in the hallway. He had the gun. She knew immediately what was about to happen. April Jace, champion runner, world-class athlete, woman who could outrun almost anyone tried to run. And Michael said the words that would haunt everyone who heard them. "You like running? Then run to heaven." And he shot her. In the leg, April screamed. She fell. She was bleeding, in agony, begging for her life in front of the children who loved her. Michael walked closer, aimed again at her other leg, and fired. 2 shots, both legs. The legs that had carried her to championships, to gold medals, to freedom. Michael wanted to destroy what made April powerful. He wanted her to suffer. April was on the ground, wounded, bleeding, helpless. And Michael fired one more time into her back. 3 shots total. 3 separate decisions to pull that heavy revolver trigger. 3 opportunities to stop and didn't. April Jace lay dying in the hallway of her own home while her 5-year-old and 8-year-old sons listened to everything from the other room. At 8:23 p.m., just minutes after shooting April, Michael Jace sent a text message to April's stepfather, Carlos. The message was short and horrifying. "Come get the boys. I just shot April." Carlos and April's mother, Kay, were in Long Beach, miles away. They immediately jumped in their car and started driving toward Hyde Park. Carlos called 911 while Kay drove, his voice shaking with fear and disbelief. "My son-in-law texted me and said, 'Come get the kids because he shot April, our daughter.'" The 911 dispatcher stayed calm, asked for the address, confirmed police were being sent. Carlos and Kay were still on the 405 freeway, racing toward their daughter, praying they'd get there in time. They wouldn't. At 8:31 p.m., 8 minutes after texting, Carlos Michael Jace himself called 911. His voice on that call is chilling, calm, almost casual, no panic, no emotion, just a man reporting what he'd done. "Hello, it's 7:30. It was actually 8:31. Please excuse all this. I've been up all night." There was no premeditation on anything. He wanted them to know right away, before they even asked that it wasn't premeditated. He was already building his defense, already trying to control the narrative. He told the dispatcher he'd shot his wife. He said he wanted paramedics because, "I didn't intend on killing her. You shot her 3 times. Once in each leg, once in the back, with a revolver that requires deliberate trigger pulls. But you didn't intend to kill her?" When police arrived at the Jace home on Brynhurst Avenue in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Los Angeles, They found April Jace lying on her back in the hallway. She was already dead, surrounded by blood, her body showing the evidence of 3 gunshot wounds. Officers also found 2 terrified young boys and Michael Jace sitting calmly, waiting to be arrested. Neighbors who heard the shots described the scene. "I heard a pow sound," one neighbor said. "Then pow, pow 3 shots," I said. "That's gunfire." Another neighbor, Shirley Harding, said she saw police escorting the children down the street. That's when I believed something was very serious. Michael Jace was arrested at the scene and booked on May 20th at 3:37 a.m. for the murder of his wife. Bail was set at $1 million. April's sons, all 3 of them, had lost their mother, and the 2 youngest had witnessed it. The next day, detectives interviewed Michael Jace, and in that interview, he admitted everything but tried to spin it as an accident, a moment of lost control. Michael told authorities he got upset about the text messages he and April had exchanged during the baseball game. He said he thought they'd turned a corner, that she was going to work things out with him. But when she made it clear she still wanted a divorce, he snapped. He said he'd been drinking. He said he was in pain and wanted April to feel the same. And here's the part that reveals everything about Michael Jace's mindset. He said that because April was a runner, he shot her in the legs. He wanted to destroy what made her powerful. He wanted to take away the thing that gave her identity, freedom, strength. He shot her legs deliberately, specifically, with cruel intention. Michael also claimed that April lunged at him and that there was a knife on the table that she might have tried to use, but police found no knife, no evidence of April attacking him, nothing to support his self-defense claims. He insisted he'd never laid a hand on April before, that they were happy except for money problems. But text messages, witness statements, and his own behavior told a different story. Michael Jace pleaded not guilty and went to trial. His defense strategy was to admit he shot April but claim it wasn't premeditated, that he'd snapped in a moment of emotional distress, that the shooting was an accident. But there was a problem with that defense. Michael's own son, 10-year-old Nehemiah Jace, a child who should never have had to testify against his own father, took the stand and told the jury what he heard that night. He heard his father argue with his mother. He heard the first gunshot. He heard his mother scream. And then he heard his father say, "You like running? Then run to heaven," before firing the second shot. Imagine that moment for the jury. A 10-year-old boy, traumatized beyond measure, having to repeat the words his father said before murdering his mother. "It's really depressing," the boy said. "Every time I have to see his face, even if it's from behind." Prosecutors used those words, "run to heaven," to demolish Michael's accident defense. You don't accidentally say something that calculated, that cruel, before pulling a trigger. Prosecutors also focused on Michael's jealousy and control. They showed the jury the 95 text messages he sent on the day of the murder. They presented evidence of his obsession with April's running, his baseless accusations of infidelity, his inability to accept that she wanted to leave. They argued this wasn't a man who lost control, this was a man who demanded control and murdered his wife when he couldn't have it. The trial also revealed disturbing technological evidence. Police had to get into April's iPhone 5S to retrieve text messages and other data. Like the San Bernardino shooter's case, there were issues with accessing locked phones. Eventually, with help from experts and some cooperation from Apple, they extracted the data. The defense argued there were chain of custody concerns, that maybe evidence had been lost or tampered with. But ultimately, the phone data supported the prosecution's case. April was trying to leave, Michael was spiraling, and he planned to hurt her. Michael's lawyers urged the jury to consider his emotional state, his drinking, his financial stress. They argued he snapped and that it should be considered manslaughter, not murder. But the jury didn't buy it. After deliberating for just about 2 hours, the jury of 6 men and 6 women reached their verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Michael Andrew Jace guilty of the crime of murder of April Jace. 53-year-old Michael Jace was convicted of second-degree murder, not first-degree, which would require proof of premeditation, but not manslaughter either, which would suggest a heat-of-the-moment loss of control. Second-degree murder, intentional killing without premeditation. The jury believed Michael intended to kill April, that he made a choice to shoot her 3 times, but they weren't convinced he'd planned it days or weeks in advance. The jury also found that Michael personally and intentionally used a firearm, a special enhancement that would add 25 years to life to his sentence. When the verdict was read, April's family reacted with relief and grief. April's 20-year-old son, Savoy, who'd been there the morning of the murder, who'd heard Michael screaming at his mother, told reporters, "I'm happy with the verdict. I'm still trying to comprehend it myself. I just like to see the sadness on his face, that he realized what he did. Because it seems like every now and then there's moments of sadness and moments of not. And those moments of not really get me questioning, how can you go that far? How can you say those words? How can you do that?" April's mother, Kay, sat through the entire trial, reliving the worst day of her life. When Michael was given the opportunity to speak before sentencing, he tearfully apologized to April's family. "My actions weren't justified that night," Michael said. "I'm sorry for what I did. I never planned to kill her." April's mother angrily shook her head and walked out of the courtroom in the middle of his apology. She couldn't listen to his excuses anymore. Nothing he said would bring her daughter back. On June 10, 2016, Michael Jace was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison, 15 years to life for second-degree murder, plus a consecutive 25-year sentence for the firearm enhancement. At minimum, Michael Jace will be 93 years old before he's eligible for parole. More likely, he'll die in prison. And April Jace remains dead at 40 years old, her life stolen by the man who vowed to love and protect her. April Jace was a champion on the track and in life. She was a gold medalist, a world-class athlete, a dedicated teacher, a loving mother, and a woman who tried to escape an abusive marriage before it was too late. She almost made it. She was so close to freedom, she'd decided to leave. She'd told Michael she wanted a divorce. She just needed a little more time. But time ran out on May 19, 2014, when Michael Jace decided that if he couldn't have her, no one would. April's sons, Savoy, Nehemiah, and Caleb, lost their mother to senseless violence. 2 of them were forced to hear it happen. Nehemiah had to testify against his own father, reliving the worst moment of his life in front of a courtroom. April's friends and family remember her positive glow, her infectious joy, her determination to find happiness even in difficult circumstances. "She was really happy all the time, as much as she could be," Savoy said. "No matter what, even if something was sad going on, she'd do her best to be happy. That's what I feel like she's doing now, if there is an afterlife." April Jace was 40 years old when her husband shot her 3 times, while their young sons listened from another room. She was a champion runner who couldn't outrun the man who promised to love her. She was a teacher who educated others, but couldn't teach her husband not to be violent. She was a mother who protected her children until the moment she couldn't anymore. If someone is obsessively jealous, sending you dozens of messages a day demanding control, accusing you of affairs that don't exist, making you afraid to come home, please reach out. National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Text START to 88788. April tried to leave. She was planning her escape. She just needed a little more time. Don't wait. Leave now. Because Michael Jace isn't the only man who's murdered a woman for trying to walk away. Rest in power. April Denise Jace. Champion. Teacher. Mother. Survivor who almost made it.